Hey, welcome. In this video I will be taking a look at my Bloodgood Japanese maples. We'll look a little bit about the size of the internodes, the effect of the two partial defoliations that I performed during 2020 and setting them up for next year's growth. Now in the spring, all of them which are in these recycling bins will be moved to their first bonsai pots, and this in a sense is a bit of a mystery. The reason why they are in such deep pots is because that's where I could put them. That's what I had, but also this is in some of them, which I don't quite remember, there might be roots that go quite deep, and so it will be a little bit of a mystery. I am amassing a bunch of pots that should work, but ultimately there is a possibility in the spring where I try to repot one of these trees and I simply don't have the right container for it because of what's going on in the roots. We will see this, we'll deal with this when time comes, but for now we will look at this tree. The first thing is that we are on the tail end of when we could work with these trees in the fall, and the reason to work with them in the fall is to prevent bleeding in the spring. Now as you can see, the leaves are dried but they're still attached, so the tree already recovered everything it could from this material, this plant source from its leaves, and there are buds already set up everywhere. As you can see, I'm a bit blind, sometimes I have to remove my glasses. So now we're just cleaning them, and what I plan to do here is perform branch selection. So although I'm treating these as hedge pruning via the hedge pruning technique, and the crucial step of the hedge pruning technique is the branch selection in the fall, so this is now the right time to do it. But in order to have those branches to select to start with, you must have had a fairly aggressive partial defoliation, if not total defoliation, to really stimulate new branches to come out from everywhere. And with these trees, and different species have different nuances. With these trees I experimented with different subjects. I have 6 of them, to different levels of partial defoliation, and I would like to first address here one of those myths about the Bloodgood cultivar, that it has big leaves, and this is absolutely not the case. The leaves can decrease quite a lot. This is the result of partial defoliation, and that is even while the tree is still on a large container. So on a bonsai pot with the limited resources, with partial or total defoliation, you can have very small leaves on this cultivar. And as you can see, we had a very dry fall. We have very different colors. Some of my maples became orange, as you can see this one, and others remained red. You will see some in a moment. So now is the time to remove all of this and do the branch selection. When I finish cleaning this, we'll come back and look at it. Here we have the tree without any leaves. A few points that I want to discuss before doing any work. As you can see here, for example, or here, there are some wiring scars from last spring where I took too long, neglected to check more frequently if there was any wire biting from last winter's work, and I had some marks. These are very green branches, so nothing on the trunk, because the trunk was made already when I collected these trees. So this will probably be invisible in the future, and many may even be replaced by inner branching. Another point that I would like to mention is, for example, here I had a big carving done. So if I can get there, I had big carving done last winter, and in this case specifically, I think everything died here. So all of this was replaced by this branch, and I had moved this branch towards the front to give space for this to be a branch. But now that that is dead, this branch is now competing with others right in here. So it would actually be ideal to have this branch go that way. Now I don't feel that I can move that to occupy this space, but there is this little branchlet here that may grow, and then I may cut here, and we'll have an interesting movement going there. So this is, as you can see, there is a lot of growth at the base here. So I will probably cut this and leave a bit of a stub that may partially heal, and then next year I will cut the rest to prevent any serious dieback. Now, as you can see, for example, this is a branch. I have a number of branches here. This one that has very interesting ramification already, or this one here. So these ones I will treat already as if they are in tertiary refinement, like this one, for example. But there will be others that I will treat as in secondary. For example, this one here that I want to continue to make growth, to allow to grow, and in other places as well. In those places where I want tertiary ramification, for example, here perhaps is an example. I don't know if it can be seen properly. What I want to do here is to leave the turn. I don't want to shorten it to a bud, because this, for example, here there is a bud which is very close to the intersection where I would like to have ramification. But if I cut to this point, what will grow here in the spring will be very big, with all the energy that is stored in the root system, with the caveat that I will be repotting these trees, so maybe there will be a little less energy stored in the root system. But nonetheless, I will not cut here, because I want those guys here on the tip to draw all the energy, and then after the first flush hardens, I will cut here, and then this will stimulate this internal bud to grow the ramification that I do want to keep, and and it will be small, will be creating a small internode. So even on this species, as I've shown already, that you can have small leaves, you can also have small internodes, and these internodes are very small, are for the size of this tree, and this is a perfect species for bonsai against the advice of experts here in that were given to me in the past. So now the work will be that of shortening branches that I don't want to elongate any further. So for example, here I have a lot of short internodes, and this is the result. So I have here internodes that are a quarter of a centimeter to a centimeter or less, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we have the long internodes from the spring. So this is what I want to have in usable, not at the end. So instead of cutting here and having again long internodes being produced here, I will cut on the second one, and I will leave some section of the stem there, because as you can see there is dieback to the previous node. Like this node here will take all the energy, and then once I will in mid-spring, after the first flush hardens, I will prune here, and then this one here will grow. Like this, I will guarantee that on this first set of buds I will have short internodes, rather than further down that I will have to cut at the end of the year. So the same here, I will leave 2 internodes wherever I can that are branches that I want to push the growth closer. I will do that. I'll leave here 2 internodes. Now here I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 branches. The question now is which ones I want to keep. So I already have 2 lateral growing ones with a short angle between them, as perhaps can be seen here. So I will be removing the other ones. And again, with all the stored energy in the tree, this will drive growth that is good, that it is wasted on the growing tip that I don't want to keep. Again, if you want to cut with any of these concave cutters, remember to put the tip on the edge that is most sensitive. This is something that I discussed in a previous video. Not many people talk about it. So this is one. Here I have a nice small internode with 2 buds. I will remove the long one here. The other one, there is nothing I can do. There is only one, and I'll keep it. Here on this branch here I have 1, 2, and 3. So what should I do? I could cut this and have a big angle here, or I can keep those 2, hope for smaller growth. In this case here, I think I will remove this internal one here, and here I will remove all the other little ones that are Okay. This one I should put some wire here, so I will do that later. Here again I have 3. I think I will remove this one because it has long internodes and it's growing on the inside between the 2 branches, so this will give it space. These internal ones here on the crotch of that branch are out. So in a sense this branch is done. I just need to wire this to put it in place. This one here now I could wire like this, and again I will keep the internal ones to be usable and the terminal one to be sacrificial after the flush hardens. And here I have internodes, and here I don't have any internodes, any buds up to the extremity, so I will leave this like this and see what happens, and potentially cut to this area here. I will leave this and see what happens and potentially cut to here. So here I have 3 nodes and I'll cut to 2, and again I will wire this down. And for now I have this small little branchlet here that I think actually I will remove this big one here that is straight and uninteresting, and now we have this and this. Okay. So wherever we have 2 internodes, I have here very close one. This is great, and I will remove this one then. So the game is this: wherever I want to keep the growth and facilitate short internodes, I will leave an additional node to be sacrificial in the spring, and wherever I need more development I simply don't do that and I let it grow. So here we have a little bit of a problem with this encroaching with this, and I think that here, as much as it saddens me because I like this crotch, I think one of these 2 have to go. One of these 2 branches have to go. Now here we have 2 branches that are very near each other, and the question is one of them more quality than another? So either I remove this or I remove this or this. One of these 2 will have to go. So if I remove this, I can move this thing to the side. This is the front of the tree. I think this branch is very important. This is on the back, and I think this branch here is not so important because it's hidden by the trunk. Yeah, I think I will remove this one here. The problem of removing this one is that then I don't have anything all the way to the top here on the back. So perhaps what I will do here is if I remove this, I could build something with this too. I have to think a little bit more about this. I will use wire, a guy wire to bring this up a little bit. And now this is growing in this direction, and I'll keep both for now at least. So here I will again leave only 2 internodes. This one here. Okay. So really the scope of work here is of this type, and in terms of an overall picture of this tree, I have in mind something that is quite natural, and this is more or less the angle of the tree. So I will continue here on the time lapse to make the decisions of where to keep 2 nodes or 1 node, and where to and remove all any structural flaws from the growth that I obtained from the 2 partial defoliations and the hedge pruning. This is the result for now. I had a branch that broke when I was probing if I should bend it or not. So it's one of those accidents that you have to live with. It was right here. So I moved something towards the front there, something that was going to be removed. So now we will see next time. And in terms of front, I either have this front with the surface being here, which is very powerful front with some of this movement in and out of the trunk, ondulation of the trunk makes it very muscular. Or I could potentially also have this as the front, which is the original back, which have more beautiful ramification. It's also nice because it has ramification. It doesn't have a bare front like many bonsai have. So here I have a lot of ramification everywhere. I guess I will decide later. The pot in which this will go is anyway symmetric with respect to front and back. So we will see how it develops. I'm slightly tending towards having the back as the front because it doesn't have this big scar, which it's fine with me. It will be partially covered and it will look as if it is a ramification of the roots. It has a little bit less of this muscling of the trunk that you can see here, undulations, which I like, but has better ramification for the moment. In any case, when I build a tree, I don't build it in a way that only the front looks good. I try to make every single side of it look as good as possible. Many of the tips that you see everywhere that are not fully wired, or some are wired also just to not prevent light from reaching other branches nearby, but many of those will be cut after the first flush hardens to promote the growth of the buds immediately below with less energy and therefore creating smaller internodes. So this is the precedent for now, and we will see how it evolves in the future. So stay tuned for the other ones. The principles will be the same on all the others, but you get the idea. In terms of styling, I like this low branching and the branches going progressively from horizontal to vertical in my representation of the deciduous model. So this is it for now. Let's see what we can do with the other trees. This is the second tree. I removed the dead leaves. I left at least two nodes on each branch, and I removed from the previous year's growth any junction that had more than two branches coming out. There were a lot of these from the hedge pruning. There are crossing branches here, but these are because it's the longest bud that will be eventually be cut in many places. It's very natural, and it's starting to become quite complex and resembling a real tree, I think. I'm not quite sure again what the front is. This tree may be one in which I may find or create a rock, because as you can see here, there's quite a void under the tree. As you can see here, my needle, I don't know how to show it properly. Maybe with this. As you can see, this goes through under the shin, the core of the tree. So this may be a candidate for root over rock, or simply for now just leaving it as it is, which makes it different from any other tree. And this is not a bad thing, quite the contrary. If I were to try to make this tree look like a perfect Japanese maple that was grown from seed over 3 generations, 50-60 years of professionals, this is never going to be the case with this tree. This tree was growing in the environment. It has this, the root system has this structure for a reason, whatever rocks or it had underneath. And you can see it was under the ground all the way here. You can see the change in color of the bark. This tree came out of the ground in 2017, and the section of the bark that was underground is still darker than the rest. In any case, showing this hollow base is an interesting feature of this tree, which I may not try to hide even with a rock. I may actually highlight, and we will see what the root system is when we come to repot it. But for now, the branches are ready for next year's growth and post hardening prune after the first flush to force tighter internodes. Let's move to the next one. This is the third tree. Again, the idea is the same: removing flaws, keeping at least 2 nodes where I want ramification. And on this tree we have this very interesting surface root. So this root here, instead of going down to the earth, comes up and then in. And this is definitely a feature that I want to highlight in this tree. Without the block, I have a feeling that the tree is leaning too much towards the front, and so this is probably the angle and the front, but there might be some variations sideways that I will explore more in depth when I'm repotting. So this is the third tree. Many of these trees, they didn't have, I apologize for the noise outside, neighbors are cleaning dead leaves, which they use a blower. A bad idea. I prefer to mulch them and leave them in the ground to return the nutrients to the ground and to serve as habitat for insects. One thing about these Japanese maples that I want to highlight is that they are about perhaps 45 years old, were grown in the ground, and so we have these very interesting natural lines up to this point. And they were grown in 100% diatomaceous earth, which here in Canada is sold as Qualisorb for the absorption of oils in garages. This material has a very small particle size. Most of it is between 1/8 and 1/16, so it is usable, but I wouldn't use this on its own, certainly not for pines. I use it, as you can see, these maples have been in this substrate for 3 years now, but I don't use it on its own for anything. There are a few branches here that I could lower now, but I may do it later. We'll see how they develop. But again, this horizontal to vertical setting of branches, and just removing everything that has more than 2 branches in a bifurcation or more than 2 nodes on the extremity. So let's now move to the next 3. This is the 4th tree. This one has a very interesting potential feature to show, which is this crooked line here for the going towards the apex, that is somewhat mimicked on this movement here and this movement here. So I imagine that the potential front is this one. It's a bit of an exaggerated nebari, the sort of grotesque, exaggerated taper that we see done on purpose on many trees, which is very, to my taste, unnatural. But this one is like this. I may hide a little bit of it under the surface of the pot, but I don't know. Another potential front is on the back. It may not be very easy to notice that I am not having to remove too many branches that are in growing in the wrong places, like more than 2 in a bifurcation. Because when I did the second partial defoliation, I already removed any branches that I knew I was not going to keep, simply for the fact that I would keep wasting energy, investing energy on things that would be removed now. I'm also not wiring these trees. Most of them I wire the president a little bit, but frankly I don't see much of a need at this time. There are a few places where they're crossing branches, but these are small branches and that they will be cut to what will grow from an internal node afterwards, or removed altogether. At this time, if I try to think objectively about the design, I don't think that, other than my own ego, to add interest on the tree, I think it's already has enough complexity already, which is what I'm striving for. Complexity and naturalness, and all of this was wired last year, all of them. So this is the result of having been wired once. this movement that you see now is there on purpose, most of it. But at this time, I don't feel that there is much need for wiring other than to satisfy my own ego, and I don't think that's a good reason at the moment. So they are staying like this, unwired. If I feel the need, I will use guy wires or wire after the first flush. We shall see. For now, I'm leaving them just like this. At least this and the previous ones that you saw that I did not wire. So this was the 4-3. This is again one of the most challenging, together with the one that has the void core, because this one has a huge grotesque nebari. So one way to deal with it would be to minimize it by looking it in this direction as opposed to this direction. But if we slightly change the angle and hide a little bit more part of this, we may get a more reasonable nebari without having to do other things like an air layer, for example. This here again, you can see what was under the ground. So a good 5 centimeters from what is the surface now. And I think that I will, so you can see here there is one root here, and I don't know if I can cut it here or if I have to keep it all the way here. But if I shift the tree this way a little bit, then this root can be under the ground. So this was the 4th tree, 2 more to go. This one here is very interesting. I found out that this trunk had rotten and hollowed all the way down here. So I started carving it just to make sure that it ages in a way that the rot doesn't really continue down further, the water can escape, and this will create a callus, and eventually it will look quite natural. This flat cut side I will carve in the future, but this is very fortunate. This had a very straight and uninteresting trunk, and out of the 3 trunks, the one that was most uninteresting is the one that is hollow. Interesting, this tree here still has the remnants of the label from the nursery stock, from when it was planted. It was completely engulfed, but there's still a little peak of plastic coming out there. So very interesting tree. now with this hollow, and now it will have to be part of probably the front to be showcased. So I again wired a few branches that I felt are absolutely necessary, and the rest I will deal with after the pruning post first hardening of the first flush. So this is the fifth maple. I just found something here that I should have removed. And yeah, very happy with them. Oh, on the other side you see another piece of the label. So it comes from here to here. I don't know in what way this grew, but yeah. This other chop here is starting to rot now, but it's still not going down. Once it does, it will be interesting because it will complement this one here. So if we have a rot here, it'll be quite interesting. Now for the last maple. This is the last maple. This is a more elongated one. Perhaps we could say even a bit feminine because of the movement. This branch here is a bit long, I find. So I'm thinking of removing it, but then all the rest will be facing too much in this direction. As for the front, again, like the other maples, these very long roots are a bit of a problem. I don't know how much they can be eliminated. Here in this one you can see there are lots of fine roots coming out from where I cut this. And actually I don't know if this was like this or end up being uncovered with time, but I don't know, for example, if I can remove this. I would like to. This is straight and doesn't go down to the soil, whereas this one goes very nicely. So I might take my chances and cut that branch, that root. I feel that the front for this tree is still hard to determine. It could be on this side, but also it could be on this side. I tend to prefer this one here. There is more complexity to the tree. But again, this branch is too big, and if it weren't there, perhaps it would be better. I will decide later. I can always cut it in the spring. Today, because I cannot decide, I'll leave it there. I put some wire, and I did the same as in the other maples, which is to leave at least 2 buds, or rather two nodes, so that the first node starts growing, and after it hardens it's sacrificed, and the second one gets activated and will produce a smaller internodes. And also I removed all the branches that grew in places that I'm not interested throughout last season. So this is it for now. All these maples will be repotted in the spring, and I will probably film that too. So thank you for watching, and until the next one, bye bye for now.